it's Hope at Crafty Hope, and welcome! It is time for the week 28 Mixed Media prompt card for hashtag Crafty Hope prompts. I'm going to explain it real quick for any of you who are new. If you are, welcome, and if you're coming back, welcome back. I appreciate your continued support of my channel and my content. So, Crafty Hope prompts is something I developed for myself. I love prompted challenges, and as some of them were coming to an end back in October, I wanted to kind of continue the fun, and I had a couple different prompt lists I had compiled, so I made them into a list of 156 prompts. That list can be found below. There's a link to it if you want to print it out, but that basically means 3 prompts a week for a year. And so, since there are 52 cards in a deck and 52 weeks in a year, I'm taking those prompts and making myself a prompt deck. So each week I'm drawing 3 prompts and altering a card. This is week 27's card, which was Chalk, Magazine, and Drip. And I made this card and then and so I do my cards on Mondays, and then on Saturdays I have a different project I use those prompts with, so I get to use those prompts twice. This first, my card is kind of my initial like, let me think about it, and then my project is my like, ooh, I'm gonna use these prompts. You are welcome to play along by either using the prompts that I draw each week or by printing out that list that I've got below and drawing your own. I know I said I'm on week 28. And but if you want to start now with week 1 and make it your own year-long project and alter cards, do that. You can follow along with me and circle back around to week 1, or you can start drawing your own right now. I just ask that you use that hashtag Crafty Hope prompts and possibly tag me, because yeah, sometimes it's hard for me to find them if I'm not tagged. But have fun with this, get inspired, and go for it. It is time to draw the week 28 prompts, so I'm going to gather up 1 through 27 and put them aside and put my blank cards aside, and let's shake this. Ooh, and we'll see what we get. So our first prompt for week 28 are going to be Splatter. Alright guys, y'all know I love my splatter. I just did in my junk journal, I did some splatter on it with chalk paint as one of my chalk prompts, and it was awesome. So, but I put splatter in just about everything. You can see there's splatter on here, and probably splatter on just about everything. So that's going to be easy. You can splatter with ink or paint or watercolors, or maybe even if you have a like a masking fluid, if you've got something like that that you could splatter and then peel off, that could be super cool. And I know I've got stamps and possibly even embossing folders that have like a splattery paint effect on them. So whatever you've got, even, and if you've got like scrapbook paper maybe that looks like it has some kind of splatter on it. So splatter, fun. Happy with that. All right, prompt number 2 is scratch. Alright guys, that one is pretty easy. For me, I tend to think of scratch as just scratching into a surface. So I've got one of these things. These are like little tools, crafting tools from the Dollar Tree that have like little awls on the end. But you could take something like that, or even a bamboo skewer, and scratch into your paint or your surface, peel up maybe layers of collage with it. Use your finger if you want and scratch something up. Trying to think what else could be scratch. If you've got one of those scratch, or you could like scratch pads maybe, like a scratch paper. Trying to think what else could be scratch. If you've got some ideas, let me know below. Share them so that other people can get inspired with that. But when I think of scratch, I think of taking a tool like this and scratching in to the paint or the surface or whatever. So, splatter and scratch. All right. Let's see what we got for prompt number 3. And it is triangle. Okay, so that's just a shape. Basically, somehow I need to work some kind of triangle onto it. It can be cut. I can draw them or paint them or cut papers in shapes of triangles and glue it like a quilt pattern maybe. What else would be triangular? I don't have any tools that are triangles, I don't think. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all we've got. I don't really have to gather anything. Y'all, I've got these already out. Yeah, I don't think I need to get anything. So I'm going to think on it a minute, but I'll be right back and we'll get started. All right, guys, it didn't take real long. Again, splatter and scratch or something I'm going to do along the process. The triangle, I can think beforehand, and what I came up with was I've got some stencils that have, is that one hard to see, that have triangles, basically. And I think these are probably part of a set. I don't know from where or when or whatever. I'm horrible about keeping up with that. And I thought that I would just use some watercolors and the stencils to make my background, but then I realized I need to scratch too, so that could make it difficult. So I don't know. I'm gonna play around with this a little bit. But I think I'm gonna start with triangle and watercolors and some papers, and then we'll move from there. So there's my thought process. We'll see what happens. Since I did have those stencils, that's kind of what I was focused on, was getting that triangle. I knew that was the hardest prompt for me for some reason. So I'm only going to use this one stencil. And I'm going to use my watercolors. I'm wetting them first. I'm going to get a big paintbrush and kind of go through both. Mostly I think I get on that tracing paper, and I'm going to go and tell you it does not work out well for me with this tracing paper. I end up not even using this tracing paper, but it's off to the side and I'll have it for another time. So I wasn't really thinking of a general color palette. I was kind of just working with colors I liked, blues and purples for the most part, and getting that on there. But my problem is that the tracing paper kind of crinkled as it got wet. Maybe a deli paper or a tissue paper would have worked better because they're more absorbent or something. I don't know. This was just something that was sitting off to the side that I thought maybe I could layer over the top of something with the triangles on it. I don't know. Oh, I did splatter. I was like, oh, let's go ahead and splatter. So I got some, what is that, like neon yellow that I splattered on there. And I'm going to pull that up. And y'all look, there are no triangles. It's pretty awful. So I'm going to take that stencil and put it down on the paper and then use a brayer to roll over the top of it just to kind of get some of the paint off of it. And I've got a few triangles on there, and I'll do another page with the other side, and I do this on a couple different papers. I'm not going to show you all of it because it was kind of the same process of just working through the stencil and then taking the stencil and rolling it out. So I've got the triangles there. I'm showing you all the papers I ended up with, and yeah, they're okay. They're fine. Yeah, for the most part, you're not really going to see them. I work triangle into these in other ways. So I'm just going to take this one and go ahead and glue it onto my card. I do like to collage onto these playing cards because they are so slick with the plastic lamination that's put on them. So I find that collage is a great way to deal with that. In other ways, I can't remember if it was the last card or the one before, but I decided to sand and then gesso. And I think it was it the last one? Yeah, with the magazine. And it ended up, I don't know, it felt way thinner than it should have when I sanded it and did all that. But it was fine. I needed some thin cards in this stack. So you see, I used some acrylic matte medium to just get these book pages down, and I'm gonna tear and trim around the edges with it. I just realized that somehow in my messy watercoloring, my prompts there got some purple watercolor on them, so I've kind of taken them apart from the paper clip they were in so they could dry while I futz around with my papers over here and getting my card covered. So that's what I'm going to use. I've brought in my Oohoo glue stick to do a couple little things, finish up the edges, because the paintbrush I had out for the the matte medium was a little thick. So I'm going to take another strip of, I was like, yeah, I used something else. I tore down this one here, just have a little bit of contrast of something else on here. And I'll put that down on my card. This is a bit futzy, sorry about that. What I like, and I kind of mentioned it there in my intro about doing the cards, is they give me time to think about these prompts and kind of a preliminary, okay, these are the things I have. How can I use them? How else can I use these prompts? And that kind of really worked for me because I played with several different ways to use these 3 prompts on this card. So hopefully when I go to do my project on Saturday, I've got some more ideas because I've kind of done an initial run through with them. All right, so that is some Liquitex Heavy Body paint. I will put it in the description box below what color that is. I don't remember. I didn't look at it. I just was kind of like, oh, blue, green, purples that, like I used before. And because it's heavy body, I knew that once I put it down, I could scratch into it. And so this is a scratch. I'm going in with the back of my paintbrush here and just making some like circles in it. I think I end up bringing a bamboo skewer into because it's a little, I guess, more sharp at the end to scrape away some of that paint so you can see the collage behind it. And I'm going to dry this real quick to go ahead and kind of seal that in so I don't mess with it anymore. And I wanted to bring scratch in some other way. So I've got a China marker here. And I'm going to just do some blocky rectangular scribbles on it because I know that I can scratch into that. Now, in doing this, I thought, oh, I could also use oil pastels in a similar way. So that I might try to work into my project. But like I said, this is doing this like, okay, let's play. Let's see what happens on this card. It gives me time to think about what's going to happen or what I can use later. So I grabbed one of those like scratchy tools there, and I'm just scratching right into, oh, crayon would work well too, y'all. I'm sorry, I just thought about that. See, a wax crayon you can scratch into and remove some of it. So I'm scratching in with that tool and trying not to scratch too hard because that tool is so pokey that it was like scraping off some of my collage papers. So I was trying to just scrape off that China marker, the wax of the China marker. And now I'm going to bring in Splatter. So the first thing I did was reconstitute this instant coffee that I keep on my desk. It is dried up and yeah, I just let it dry up and then I add a little bit more water and I use it at my will. Usually I do a little painting with it too, but since this was a splatter prompt, I kept to the splatter. So I splattered that. I'm going to dry it real quick. And then I decided to come in with that white chalk paint that I used in my junk journal this past week. If you saw that, you saw how much I loved the opaqueness of the chalk paint splatter. So I was like, you know what? This needs some white because I had decided this was going to be the side with my prompts on it, with my prompt words. And because those were white, the starkness white of it, I needed more white on there. So that's all that was. So I splattered that as well using a fan brush. And I'll dry it. And I cut down my prompts to the single words and took off that excess paper and remembered that I had some hand-carved stamps that are triangles. One of them you can see is a triangle inside of a circle, like a play button, and the other one is just a straight up triangle, and that's the one I'm going to use. And I'm using Distress Oxide in Dusty Concord, I think is what it is, and just putting one at the top and one at the bottom to kind of frame up the top and bottom of where my prompts are going to go. And I'll use my Uhu glue stick again to just stick these down. So that's not finishing my prompt card, but that gets a triangle. You know, I've got it in the background. I've got scratch on there. I've got splatter. All of those are on this side of my prompt card, which I consider my functional side because it has the prompt. So I haven't really started on the decorative side yet, which is crazy. I've been doing that a lot more lately, doing the prompt side before the decorative side. The first half of this challenge, I did my functional side, my decorative side first. So I brought in a Stabilo all pencil in black just to kind of make that triangle pop a little bit more, and then I'll go around the edge just to kind of frame up the whole card, and then I'll activate it, because if something is water reactive, I cannot help but make it react. And I love a Stabilo that's been activated. It darkens up, it pops. It's, yeah. So I'm going to go around that outside and then around my triangles as well. I had too much water on that little brush. I kept trying to get it off. So, and I went around on the Distress Oxide as well, because sometimes that can change colors a little bit. And then I'll dry that. And for the most part, that side is done. So I'm flipping over to my decorative side, and all that beautiful collage that I put down, I'm going to cover with a thick layer of just some Liquitex Basics white gesso. So I'm going to paint that on. I've got far too much. I end up having to brush some of it off, I think, because it was just way too much. But what I wanted to do was scratch into that gesso for my scratch prompt. So I pull out this tool. It's from the Dollar Tree. I think it's a cake decorating tool. And I'm going to scratch in one direction and then scratch in another. A couple times, you can see, and then I'll take the wider side and kind of do like a squiggly line down it. This is kind of like jelly printing almost, y'all. So I do this squiggly line, and so it starts to feel like frosting because I'm using that cake tool and it's all that white. It feels a bit like cake frosting. So I'll dry that while it's nice and cool, and I'm going to come in with some splatter, and I'm using just the neon colors of my paint kit, or my watercolor palette. And I started with the pink, or maybe it was the red and the yellow. I don't remember, because one's pink and one's red and they're very similar. But basically, I'm going to use all 6 of the neon colors that are in that set. And I'll put 2 down and dry it because I'm trying not to make mud. And it starts to feel a bit like a funfetti cake or cookie to me. Are y'all familiar with funfetti cake mixes? They're like white cake with sprinkles in them, or what are they called? Hundreds and thousands, I think some people call them. But that's how it feels to me, is like a funfetti cake. So while I'm doing that, I was like, yeah, I've got to make this some kind of party thing. And I remember a quote that's in the Tim Holtz Small Talk stickers about a party without cake is just a meeting. So I'll end up using that sticker here when I get all this done. But at some point of this, it had hit me that I could make little dunce hats or party hats with triangles. So I'm totally going to bring that in. First, I need some people for my meeting party. So I grabbed this little strip of yearbook photo, and these 2 guys are both grinning delightedly, like they are about to get some cake. So I picked them out. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and glue them down. And then I start looking around on my desk for what I can use to create some party hats for them. And so I grabbed one of those strips of the paper that we altered with the watercolor, and I try a little piece of it, and it just doesn't stand out on that white background. So I realize I have some black construction paper on my desk, and I'll cut out a triangle there for him, but it just the black triangle itself wasn't doing it for me. I needed something else. So I'm going to add that little bit of that other triangle on there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I told my husband I was going to tell y'all I said this. He says that my party hats are too big and they do look like dunce hats instead of party hats, but I think you get the idea. So I do this little stack here with the black construction paper, and then I altered that little piece of book page with my coffee and dried it, and I'll stick that on there, and then I'll make a hat for the other guy, again using the black, and then an unaltered piece of that book paper there. I think I got a little more color on that one, so I'm just going to glue those together, and then I pull in a gold gel pen. It's a Signo, Uniball Signo gold gel pen. I think that's what I do next. I either do that or I go ahead and pull out my phrase. There's that pen. And I'm going to just do some decorations on their hats. The guy on the left is just going to get some stripes, and the guy on the right is going to get some dots. Big happy dots to make these a little more party hat-ish. And then I'll put like pom-poms on the top of it with that gold. And it's kind of hard to see, so I'll use a black pen and just a little bit to highlight that. So here comes those small talk stickers with that quote, and I will cut that down because it's too long to fit across my card. So it says a party without, what does it say? A party without cake is just a meeting. So yeah, here's my black pen, and I'm going to highlight my pom-poms, and then I'll go around the outside edge of the whole thing. And I think I take a bit of time and put a little bit of oohoo under my stickers just to make sure they stick well, and I'll use that pen to write the number 28 on the other side, so we know it's week 28's card. Alright guys, that is it for week 28. I hope that these 3 prompts of scratch, splatter, and triangle inspires something in you. I'm looking forward to what you do. Even if you don't use these and you use other prompts, make sure you use that hashtag. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see y'all very soon with more art. Thanks y'all. Bye.